Hi there, this is Megan with Left in Knots, and today I'm going to show you how to make a double crochet hat. This is a really nice basic pattern. I'll be showing you the preemie size. I do have the double crochet hat in 10 sizes available on my blog for free at www.leftinknots.com, and I recommend that you find that pattern and follow along with the written pattern while I teach you how to crochet this hat. So we are going to start this hat by making a magic circle. This is a technique that's a little bit difficult to get down at first, but it's really worth it with hats because it makes a really nice tight closure on the top. If you start with chain stitches, sometimes you can get gaps. So I'm going to wrap the yarn around my two fingers. This is the way I do magic circles. There are a lot of different tutorials out there. Find the one that works best for you. I cross my yarn over my fingers so that the tail of my yarn is underneath the working end of my yarn. Then I'm going to take my crochet hook, put it under that X, grab this working yarn, pull it up, and then again grab this working yarn and pull it tight. So now this is your magic circle. To start the hat, round 1, as it written in the pattern, is going to be worked into this magic circle. So we're going to start with a chain 2. Chain stitches are, you have 1 loop on your hook, yarn over, pull through that loop, yarn over, pull through that loop. And chain stitches in this pattern do not count as a stitch in your round. So when it says chain 2 and then do 9 double crochet, that means you're going to do these chain 2, and then in addition to these chain 2 you're going to crochet 9 more double crochet stitches. Double crochet stitch is yarn over, insert your hook into this magic circle, yarn over, pull up through the magic circle, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook. Okay, again, you're starting with 1 loop on your hook, you yarn over, insert your hook into the magic circle, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So now you have 3. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now you've made 2 double crochet stitches. Yarn over, insert your hook into the magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So there are my 9 double crochet stitches into my magic circle. It's important to know how to count your stitches when you're working on a hat because you will be increasing your number of stitch counts in the next few rows. And so the best way to count, there's 2 ways to count real well. You can look at the posts of the stitch, which is this vertical bar here. And you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. or you can look at the tops of the stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So once you're sure that you have the right number of stitches in that round, you're going to take this tail that you left with your magic circle and pull tight. If you're having trouble with that magic circle, I do have a video tutorial specifically for the magic circle that I go over it a little bit more in detail. So make sure to check that out if you need some help with that. Now the end of each round of this hat, you just made your first round, the end of each round is going to be attached to the first stitch of the round with a slip stitch. So remember, these chain stitches here did not count as a stitch. And so now you're going to find your first double crochet stitch, put your hook through the front and back loops of that stitch, yarn over, pull through everything on your hook, and then pull tight. So that's round 1. Now round 2, we are going to be increasing in each stitch around. So we're going to start with a chain 2 again. Increasing means we will work 2 double crochet stitches into each double crochet stitch of the previous round. So again, that's yarn over. And now instead of working into that magic circle, we're going to be working into the stitches. And so your stitches, that little V shape that you see, this is your front loop and your back loop. You are going to be putting your hook through both of those strands of yarn. So yarn over, insert your hook through both your front and back loop, yarn over, pull through your stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. So now that's 1 double crochet stitch into the double crochet stitch of the previous round, but we want to do an increase. So we're going to yarn over, and instead of moving on to this next stitch, we're going to work 1 more stitch into the same space where your previous stitch was worked. So you're going to yarn over, insert your stitch into that same space, yarn over, pull up a loop through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you are going to do that in each stitch around. So your 9 stitches in this round will turn into 18 because you're doubling your stitch count in this round. So yarn over, your next stitch is this next V shape here. So you did your yarn over and you're going to insert into the front and back loop, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, you're going to yarn over and remember to increase, so you're working in sets of 2. So these 2 stitches were worked into 1, these next 2 stitches are worked into 1. So you're going to go into that same space, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. I'm going to keep increasing in this round, working 2 stitches into each stitch of my previous round, and then I'm going to come back and show you round 3. Okay, I'm back at the end of round 2, and remember I said that counting your stitches is really important. If you increase your stitches unevenly, or if you don't increase them enough, you're going to end up with kind of a wonky shape. So before moving on to the next round, especially as you're beginning, I like to count stitches to make sure you have the right number. And again, you can either look at the posts, which would be this part here, or you can look at the top of the stitches, which is these V shapes that you've been working into. At this point, I find it easier to look at the top of the stitches, but do whichever works best for you. And so I've already counted and I do have 18. And so now again, I'm going to slip stitch into the first double crochet of my round. Again, I don't count these chain stitches. This is my first double crochet of the round. And so I insert my hook, yarn over, and pull through everything on my hook, and then I pull tight. It kind of just knots the beginning of the round to the end of the round. Now with this preemie hat, we're going to increase for a few more rounds before we start maintaining our stitch count. And so round 3 is going to be, start with a chain 2. Now you're only going to increase in every other stitch. So this is where counting can get tricky. And when I teach this hat in classes, this is the part that gets students hung up the most, is learning to count your stitches, but it's really, really important, because if you don't count, it's just not going to work in the end. It takes practice, but it gets a lot easier as you get used to it. So I'm going to work 2 double crochet into this first stitch, 1 into my second, 2, 1, 2, 1, all the way around. So I'll show you what that looks like. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now this first stitch is my increase, so I'm going to yarn over and go back into the same stitch space from the previous round and work another double crochet stitch. Now in this next stitch of my previous round, I'm only going to crochet 1 double crochet. Yarn over, pull through the stitch, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now I'm going to move on to this next stitch of my previous round, and this will be an increase. So in this one we'll work 2 double crochet, so I worked 2 into that space, and now I'll work 1 into this next stitch. So once you get that pattern down, you know, the 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, you're just going to do that all the way around for this round. So your 18 stitches will turn into 27 after the end of this round. I'm going to go ahead and complete this round, and then I'll come back and show you round 4. Okay, so I'm at the last stitch of my third round. You can see I've worked 2 double crochets into this stitch here, and now I have 1 stitch left to work into. And so that's going to be just my last 1 double crochet. If as you're going around your count is off and you end thinking you need to do 2 double crochets in this last stitch, that means your count got off somewhere. That's always a good indicator that maybe somewhere back here you miscounted or skipped a stitch. So now again, I'm going to look for that first stitch of my round, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull tight. Now we have just 1 last row of increasing. Round 4 is going to increase every 3rd stitch of your previous round. So you're going to start with an increase in stitch number 1 of your previous round. So 2 in this one, 1 in your second, 1 in your third. So it'll go 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. So in this round, 27 stitches turns into 36. You'll have 36 stitches at the end of round 4. So like all of my rounds, I'm going to start with a chain 2. And then in this very first stitch, I'm going to work 2 double crochets. Now remember, this round is only increasing every 3 stitches, so I increased in my first stitch, and now my next 2 stitches of the previous round are going to just have 1 double crochet worked into each. So that's 2, 1, 1. This next stitch will have an increase, so that'll be 2 double crochet stitches into this next stitch. And then 2, 1, 1 into each of these next 2 stitches. I'll go ahead and finish round 4, and I will come back and tell you how to finish this hat. Okay, so I'm ending round 4 here now again. Same trick as last time. You want to make sure that you end your stitch repeat at the right place, and that helps you know that your stitch count is correct. So remember, my repeat of stitches was 2, 1, 1 or increase 1, 1. So I've got my increase here, my 2. I've got 1 in this stitch, and now I'll have 1 in the last stitch. So that's a pretty good indicator that my stitch count is correct. I still recommend, especially as you're starting out, to go back and count your stitches of each round just to make sure that you that your counts are on. So again, we're going to find that first stitch of the round, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull tight. Now you're done increasing. So the counting, aside from knowing that you're maintaining your stitch count, is done. You don't have to think about that anymore. Now we're just going to crochet a few rounds of double crochet stitches all around. So just 1 double crochet stitch worked into each stitch of the previous round. So that'll start with a chain 2. Then you yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And remember, we're not increasing at all, so each time you finish a double crochet stitch, you're going to move on to your next stitch of the previous round. So this round should have 36 stitches around, just like last round did. This hat pattern is written in 10 sizes. Right now I'm showing you the preemie size, as I mentioned earlier. But you can make this hat in any size to fit anyone. The only difference is that you will have more rounds of increasing, or you may start with a different number of double crochet stitches. This hat started with 9 double crochet stitches. Some of them start with 10, and some of them start with 11. And then they increase based off of that number for whatever size you're making. These are also really easy to embellish. You can do stripes, or you can make little appliques to sew onto them. So this is a really nice basic pattern to start with, and then personalize for whoever you are planning on giving it to. These hats are great for donations. NICUs often take donations of hats. Sometimes cancer centers take donations of hats. So if you get addicted to making these little things, there are a lot of good places that they can go even if you don't need all of them or know someone who needs all of the hats that you make. So you can see that I'm just working in each stitch around, and then this is what will also start your hat to curve down into a hat shape, because now that you've stopped increasing, you're going to see more of that curve to it. So there's the end of my round. Again, count your stitches just to make sure you're still on. Find your first stitch of the round, slip stitch into that, pull tight, and then this was the end of round 5. You're going to do that double crochet around through round 8. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up a few more rounds of double crochet. You work on yours too, and then we will come back and finish round 9, and I'll show you how to finish up your hat and weave in your ends. Okay, so now we are at the end of round 8. I attached with a slip stitch just like we have every other round. And now round 9 is one more round of stitches, but this is going to be a different stitch. This is going to be a smaller stitch called a single crochet. So to do the single crochet, instead of chaining 2, we're just going to start with a chain 1. Yarn over, pull through. Again, we're just going to work 1 stitch into each stitch of our previous round, but this time the stitch is a little bit simpler. You do not start with a yarn over like we have been with the double crochet. Instead, you simply insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, and pull through 2. That's the whole stitch. So again, you insert your hook into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, and pull through 2. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. So now I'm going to finish single crocheting around this edge. And then after we finish this, I'll show you how to weave in your ends to finish up your hat. Once you can work in the round like this for hats, you can also make mittens, bags. There are a lot of fun things that you can make when you can work in the round like this. So once you get comfortable with this, don't forget to venture out and try other things. I have a lot of free patterns on my blog, www.leftandknots.com, the same place you find this written pattern for the hat. And video tutorials are great, but I also really recommend following along with the pattern so that you get used to and comfortable reading crochet patterns. There are so many beautiful patterns out there that if you can get used to reading them, you will have a whole bunch of different things that you will be able to know how to do. So I finished single crocheting around. Again, I'll find my first single crochet of the round and slip stitch to that. Pull tight. And now you get to take your scissors, snip so that you have a nice long tail to weave in your ends. And then you just pull through that last loop and pull tight. So now this is right side out for your hat. That's what you want to be the outside. So you're going to take your tail and your yarn needle and thread the yarn through. That's something that can take a little bit of practice sometimes. And then you're just going to want to take your needle, go through, I like it to go through at least about an inch of stitches, and then I like to go back almost exactly the opposite direction. pull tight without pulling so tight that you distort your stitches. And then again, you take your scissors, cut that off. Then you have this one more tail to weave in. Again, go through at least about an inch. That's why you want a nice long tail to work with. And then go back in the opposite direction. Pull through and clip. And you are done with your first preemie hat. Again, you can find the full written pattern for the double crochet hat in 10 sizes on my blog, www.leftandknots.com. It shows you the written pattern for all 10 sizes. It also shows finished measurements so that you can compare yours to mine to double check on your tension. And you can also find a lot of other free patterns and video tutorials there as well. I hope you enjoyed this hat. Happy crocheting!